Influence comes when your action hits others' needs, without words. Tony Robbins. You know exactly what it feels like to be disrespected, not just ignored, erased. You're in the room, but it's like you don't exist. People talk around you, over you, through you. They don't ask what you think. They don't care how you feel. And when they laugh, it's often at you, not with you. This isn't just about rudeness, it's about something much deeper. It's the slow, invisible burn of not being seen, not being heard, not being valued. And maybe the worst part? You started to believe them. You started to believe that maybe you really don't matter. Maybe you really don't have that much to offer. Maybe something's wrong with you. That voice, the one that used to be someone else's, now lives in your own head. You try to silence it with books, with work, with distractions, but it's still there, whispering, judging, killing your strength from the inside. You've probably done everything they told you to do. Be nice, be useful, work hard, stay positive. You tried to earn their respect, but no matter what you gave, it wasn't enough, because you were playing by rules that were designed to keep you small. And no one tells you the truth. Respect is never given to those who beg for it. It's claimed. And it starts not with them, but with you. What if I told you this isn't permanent? That this version of you, tired, bitter, invisible, doesn't have to stay? That you can become the kind of person the world cannot ignore? There's a reason some people walk into a room and everyone straightens up, everyone listens. Everyone senses something. It's not money, it's not status, it's not charisma, it's something else, something deeper, and you can build it. The truth is, some of the most respected people in history started from pain just like yours. Martin Luther King was beaten and imprisoned. Mother Teresa was mocked and dismissed. Socrates was executed by his own people. Jesus was betrayed and crucified. Gandhi was ignored by an empire. They didn't rise because the world handed them power. They rose because they did something almost no one dares to do. They respected themselves when no one else would. They made a single move, one inner decision that shifted everything. The strongest move of power, the one that doesn't look like power at all. But it changes the way people look at you, the way they talk to you, the way they feel you. This video is not about tricks. It's about that one move, the one that begins inside. And by the end of this, you'll understand what it is and why it works. If these words are hitting something in you, subscribe to the channel. Let this truth reach others who are ready to hear what no one else is saying. If this feels personal, join the Telegram. That's where we go deeper, without the masks, without the noise, just truth. Think about the people the world respects most, the ones whose names are spoken for centuries. Their influence wasn't given, it was earned, and not through performance or popularity, but through something internal, something unshakable. They weren't born different. They were just willing to walk through something most people run from. They were willing to become someone that could no longer be ignored. Not by force, not by charm, but by presence. Martin Luther King stood in front of hatred with unwavering clarity. He wasn't loud, he was rooted. His power didn't come from aggression, it came from conviction. Mother Teresa moved through the filth of the world, untouched by fame or praise. She didn't demand attention, she radiated dignity. Socrates asked questions that threatened the comfort of society. He didn't chase approval, he lived aligned with truth. Jesus spoke truth in silence and carried love through rejection. Gandhi dismantled an empire not with weapons, but with stillness. These people didn't become powerful because they wanted to be admired. They became powerful because they chose not to abandon themselves, even when it cost them everything. They didn't sell their soul for applause. They stood alone until others realized they could not be moved. And that's the moment respect begins. Not when the world sees your light, but when you refuse to dim it. You don't need to become them, but you can learn from the pattern. All of them made the same internal decision. At some point, each one of them faced rejection, humiliation, invisibility, and chose not to shrink. They stopped explaining. They stopped defending. They stopped needing permission. And in doing that, they stepped into something much more powerful than approval. They stepped into authority, not over others, but over themselves. That's where it starts. You don't get respected by trying harder. You get respected by being willing to lose the things you once thought were necessary to earn it. Image, niceness, control, the need to be understood, the fear of being alone. All of that must go, because real presence is built on what remains after all of that has been stripped away. And only a few are ready to go there. But those who do, they don't just get noticed, they get remembered. The strongest move of power isn't external. It's not a speech, not a fight, not a strategy. It's a moment of internal alignment so quiet, most people miss it. It's when you stop waiting to be seen and start standing as if you already are, not pretending, not posturing, but fully rooted in yourself. That's the moment everything begins to shift, because people feel it when you no longer need their validation. They feel it when you're no longer performing, and something in them adjusts. They begin to pay attention, not because you demand it, but because you no longer chase it. Respect starts the second you stop trying to earn it. And that's the paradox. The more you chase it, the less you get it. The more you bend, explain, prove, and please, the more invisible you become. Because the energy underneath those actions is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being nothing. But when you stop running from that fear, when you stand in it and say, "I'm still here," you become undeniable. Not because of what you say, but because of what you no longer need to say. This move is invisible to most. That's why it's powerful. It's not a show. It's a shift. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to convince anyone. You just begin to move through life differently. Your posture changes. Your tone calms. Your reactions slow down. You no longer flinch when misunderstood. You no longer reach when rejected. You no longer collapse when challenged, because you're no longer acting from lack. You're standing in enough. This is the move that changes how people treat you. Not because they suddenly become better, but because you stop making yourself small to stay safe. And when you stop doing that, people are forced to deal with who you really are. Some will leave. Some will resist. Some will test you. But many will respect you, often silently, often deeply. And most importantly, you'll start respecting yourself, not as an idea, but as a lived reality. And once that happens, you stop asking for permission to exist. You simply exist. And that's when your power becomes real. So what are the actual traits that make a person respected by everyone? Not temporarily, not superficially, but deeply and universally. It's not charm. It's not intelligence. It's not confidence in the way the world sells it. The people who are truly respected share something else, a set of inner qualities that don't shout but resonate. The first is radical self-ownership. They don't outsource blame. They don't play victim. They don't explain away their patterns. They own every part of themselves, light and dark. That ownership radiates. It tells others, This person doesn't flinch in front of their own truth, and that makes them unshakable. Second, emotional integrity. Respected people don't wear masks to keep the peace. They don't lie to themselves just to feel good. They feel deeply, speak honestly, and stand calmly in uncomfortable truth. They can hold tension without reacting. That doesn't mean they're cold, it means they're stable. Their emotions don't run the show. They acknowledge fear, but aren't driven by it. They feel pain, but don't collapse under it. This gives them a groundedness that people instinctively trust. Third, clarity of boundaries. Truly respected people don't over-explain, over-give, or overstay. They know where they begin and where they end. They say no without guilt. They walk away without drama. They don't fight to be chosen, they choose themselves. And that self-selection creates gravity. It makes others stop and consider their own behavior. Because nothing commands respect more than someone who respects their own space. Fourth, presence. Respected people are not scattered. They're not always talking. They're not seeking attention. They're present, fully, deeply. They look you in the eye. They listen. They don't rush to speak. And when they do speak, every word carries weight. Not because they try to be impressive, but because they're connected to what they say. Presence is rare, and that rarity creates power. Finally, congruence. Their thoughts, words, and actions match. There's no performance, no pretending, no twisting to fit in. What they believe is how they live. What they value is how they move. And that alignment creates trust. You may not always agree with them, but you trust that they're real. And in a world of masks and games, that realness is magnetic. These traits aren't reserved for the few. They can be built, chosen, practiced, but only if you're willing to stop trying to be liked and start choosing to be whole. You cannot become someone who commands real respect without walking through pain, not avoiding it, not covering it, walking through it. This is the part nobody wants to hear, but it's where everything begins, because the traits that make someone respected aren't built in comfort. They're forged in discomfort. They come from facing moments that crush your illusions, strip away your masks, and leave you naked in front of your own patterns. That's where depth is born. And only those who enter that space without running build the kind of presence the world remembers. Pain isn't the enemy. Avoided pain is. Suppressed pain grows roots. It leaks into your tone, your posture, your choices. It makes you overcompensate, perform, please, explode, retreat, anything to avoid feeling it. But when you stop resisting it, something powerful happens. You stop lying to yourself. You stop fighting for false peace. You stop needing to control how others see you. Pain burns off what's false. And what remains, that's the real you. That's the you who no longer negotiates for respect. Respected people are not untouched by pain. They are transformed by it. They don't deny their scars. They embody them. They carry them without apology. And that's what makes them different. Because the person who has nothing to hide is the person who has nothing to fear. That kind of presence is rare, not because it's impossible, but because most people are too busy trying to escape the very pain that could make them whole. The moment you stop making pain the enemy, your power returns. Not all at once, but step by step. Every time you sit with your discomfort instead of escaping it, you build strength. Every time you name the lie you've been telling yourself, you create freedom. Every time you walk away from what drains your self-respect, you rise. It's not about being fearless. It's about being willing to feel and choosing not to abandon yourself in the process. This is the ground of transformation. It's where presence is built, where boundaries are discovered, where integrity becomes non-negotiable. And once you've walked through that fire, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Your energy speaks before you do, and the world feels it, even if it never says it out loud. You don't need to wait 10 years to become someone worthy of respect. You don't need to read 100 books or attend endless workshops. The shift starts today with how you move, how you speak, how you respond. The first step is awareness. Watch yourself. Catch the moments you abandon your truth to keep the peace. Notice when you say yes, while your body screams no. Notice when you lower your tone, hide your thoughts, or smile to avoid tension. These are the micro moments where your self-respect leaks away, and each time you choose differently, even subtly, you reclaim it. Start with one simple act. Name your own pattern. Say it out loud without excuse. I play small when I fear rejection. I silence myself when I feel misunderstood. I please people to avoid being alone. Don't try to fix it right away. Just name it. Because truth named without shame is the beginning of power. From there, create a single commitment. One daily action that aligns with who you want to become. It could be as small as pausing before answering, saying, "I need time," holding your own gaze in the mirror without flinching. These acts may seem minor, but they're not. They're symbolic declarations. I'm no longer abandoning myself. Practice presence. Not the kind that looks calm, but the kind that is grounded. Turn off noise. Slow your breathing. Listen to someone fully without interrupting. Speak slower. Choose words that matter. When you stop rushing to fill space, people start leaning in. And when they lean in, not because you demand it, but because you're anchored, that's the beginning of real respect. Most people are desperate to be heard, but they skip the step of learning how to hear themselves. Start there. Sit with your own discomfort without trying to fix it. Let it teach you. Draw your first boundary without anger. Simply say, "That doesn't work for me." No drama, no defense, no apology, and don't explain, just hold it. You'll feel the internal resistance, the fear of being rejected, seen as difficult, or losing connection. Let it come. Let it pass. That's where your old identity fights to stay in control. But every time you stand in that fire and don't flinch, your respect for yourself grows. And eventually, others will match it or fall away. Either way, you're no longer shaped by their approval. You're shaped by your own alignment. There is one trait that stands above all others. One quality that transcends time, culture, gender, and belief. The people who are universally respected, truly, deeply, and across generations, all carry this. It's not status, not intelligence, not kindness, not strength. It's something far more powerful, far more consistent. The one trait that makes a person unshakably respected is inner dignity. Dignity is not pride. It's not ego. It's not performance. It's the quiet, unbreakable sense that your worth is not up for negotiation. Dignity doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It doesn't defend. It just is. It's the invisible posture of someone who knows who they are and no longer trades that truth for approval, attention, or control. You can feel it in a room before a word is spoken. It's the person whose presence makes you pause, not because they're loud, but because they're rooted. Every era has given us people who moved with dignity and were remembered because of it. In ancient China, Confucius didn't rise by force. He embodied quiet moral discipline, humility, and unwavering principle, and entire civilizations built themselves on his teachings. In ancient Greece, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, led not by tyranny, but by restraint, clarity, and deep self-reflection. He practiced stillness while holding absolute power, and people followed not out of fear, but out of reverence. In the Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci didn't seek attention. He lived in alignment with curiosity, integrity, and patience. He didn't rush to be understood. And now, centuries later, the world still leans in. In the 20th century, Nelson Mandela emerged from prison not with revenge, but with composure and wisdom. He had every reason to hate. Instead, he chose dignity, and the world knelt in respect. All of them different languages, different lives, but the same inner trait, dignity, that unshakable internal compass that never outsourced their worth, even when humiliated, even when rejected, even when alone, especially then. Because dignity doesn't grow in comfort, it grows in silence, in restraint, in choosing not to shrink, even when unseen, in standing tall, not to impress, but because that's who you are. Dignity is when your soul stops apologizing for existing. And yes, you can build this. Dignity is not something you're born with. It's a decision, repeated, until it becomes your baseline. Here's the practice. Once a day, when no one is watching, carry yourself with full dignity. Not arrogance, not coldness, just presence. Choose not to explain yourself. Speak less. Sit upright. Walk slower. Respond with fewer words. And before you act, ask one question. Is this how someone with dignity moves? Then move that way, even if it feels unfamiliar, especially then. This trait, if practiced, changes everything. People stop testing your boundaries. They start listening. They sense the shift, even if they can't name it. And most importantly, you feel it in your spine, in your breath, in the way you begin to speak to yourself. Dignity makes love deeper, leadership cleaner, silence stronger. It makes you magnetic without effort, respected without demand, and unforgettable without noise. If you've made it to this point, you're ready, not for a performance, but for a different way of being. A way that doesn't chase validation, but carries truth. And that is rare. That is what the world needs more of. And that is what you can become. If you feel this, subscribe to the channel. Let these words reach the ones still searching for their ground. If you're ready to live this, join the Telegram. That space is for those who don't perform anymore. If you saw yourself in these words, write in the comments, "I no longer run from pain." If you feel it's time to meet your shadow, write, "My darkness is my power." If you're done with roles and masks, write, "I take them off." If something shifted in you here, write, "I accept my shadow." Let others see that they're not alone. Let this space be filled with people ready to choose something real, not someday. Now, because this isn't the end, it's the beginning.